President Trump is pausing military escorts through the Strait of Hormuz as he pursues a deal with Iran.
Long Island Railroad workers have gone 3 years without a raise. Now they're threatening a strike that could shut down train services entirely.
Will Mayor Mamdani put the park back in Park Avenue? New plans in the works for one of the city's iconic thoroughfares. These stories and more coming up on CJS News.
Good afternoon and welcome to CJS News. I'm Skylar Winston.
And I'm Marina Felix.
We begin with new developments in the Middle East. President Trump is pausing the naval escort mission in the Strait of Hormuz as he pursues a deal with Iran. Only recently, President Trump announced Project Freedom, a U.S. effort to guide hundreds of stranded ships out of the Strait of Hormuz. The operation involved guided missile destroyers, more than 100 aircraft, and 15,000 service members. Iran immediately called the move a ceasefire violation. Now the president has temporarily suspended it while peace talks continue. Although the situation in the Strait has sent U.S. gas prices to nearly $4.50 a gallon, the highest in 4 years, Trump says talks with Iran could still lead to something, quote, very positive for all.
Two of the biggest production studios in Hollywood are moving towards a merger. Warner Brothers and Paramount may combine in a deal worth $81 billion. Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and CNN may soon be all under the same platform. Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders voted to support a merger that has the power to reshape the media industry. Many critics, actors, and directors aren't so sure about the proposed deal. Cynthia Nixon, David Fincher, and Pedro Pascal are among 4,000 people who have signed the online petition, Block the Merger. They warned that the transaction could lead to fewer jobs in Hollywood, a decline in movie releases, and less diversity and creativity in storylines. And it's not just movies and streaming. CNN and CBS News would also come under the same owner, giving one company control over two of America's biggest news networks. Earlier this year, Netflix bid to acquire Warner Brothers, but ultimately declined to match the higher price offered by Paramount. The proposed deal is not done. It still needs approval from federal regulators, which could take months.
Louisiana officials are scrambling to redraw the state's congressional House districts. This after the Supreme Court declared the state's current electoral map unconstitutional. That map created two majority black districts, both now held by Democrats. State officials suspended this month's primaries. They are working on a new map and plan to reschedule the primaries for later. The redistricting is expected to heavily favor Republicans. Marina.
From one court battle to another, one of the biggest fights in the tech world is happening this week. Elon Musk is suing OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. In 2015, Elon Musk helped start OpenAI together with Sam Altman and Greg Brockman. Musk claims he funded most of the company, and the goal was for OpenAI to be a nonprofit that focused on safe development of AI and open access to the technology. Now, Musk is suing because he says OpenAI broke that agreement when it shifted to a for-profit model. Musk says the roughly $38 million he gave OpenAI was used for purposes he never agreed to. OpenAI says Musk is just jealous. They claim he's the one who walked out the door and said that they would fail, and now that they haven't, he wants a piece of that success. Text messages show Musk offered a settlement before the trial, but when Brockman suggested he drop the complaint against them, Musk fired back. By the end of the week, you and Sam will be the most hated man in America. The trial is expected to last a few weeks. Musk wants over $130 billion in damages, and Altman removed from OpenAI. He's also asking the court to require OpenAI to go back to being a nonprofit.
Gun crime in New York City is at a record low, but the NYPD says shootings involving minors have remained a problem since the pandemic. Alicia Mess joins us live from Harlem about a new plan to address the youth gun violence. Alicia.
Thanks, Skylar. Community leaders say that preventing gun violence among young people starts long before the crime happens. We're less than halfway through the year, and over 30 people under the age of 18 have been shot in New York City. Earlier this week, a 14-year-old boy was shot in the leg on the way to school. And last week, 15-year-old Jaden Pierre was shot and killed in a Queens Park by a teen gunman. Frank Tia with New Yorkers Against Gun Violence says certain conditions can increase a community's vulnerability.
Whenever you have like high poverty, high unemployment, lowest rates of graduation, and high levels of food securities, those things definitely are indicators of folks being, unfortunately being more susceptible or at risk of gun violence.
Earlier this year, Governor Hochul put $20 million towards street outreach programs, which connect young people with mentors and support services before violence happens. But advocates say not every neighborhood has access to these resources. William Evans, founder of Neighborhood Benches, is trying to change this by encouraging the community to help guide young people.
Folks want to do the work, but sometimes it's kind of challenging when we can't access funding.
Ramel Johnson, a mentor, says the work makes a difference.
Too much time on your hands can get you in trouble. You know what I'm saying? So we try to be occupied more, you know what I'm saying? And just have fun and enjoy life.
With summer approaching and concerns about growing gun violence, community leaders say that government funding matters now more than ever. Live in Central Harlem, I'm Alicia Mess for CJS News.
Thanks, Alicia. The war in Iran has been disrupting trade. But did you know that it's had another impact that might surprise you? Mabel Pickering joins us live from the Upper West Side with more. Mabel?
Thanks, Marina. So let's talk about sex. Sex is related to stress reduction and better sleep. And it's getting more expensive. The conflict in the Middle East is driving up the price of contraceptives. Because of disrupted trade routes, condom manufacturers can't get the materials needed for production, raising prices up to 30%. What's more, Title X guidelines for clinics receiving funding are shifting towards natural family planning under the Trump administration. That means tracking menstrual cycles and avoiding sex when most fertile over what the administration calls an over-reliance on pharmaceutical and surgical treatments. This is a double setback for protected sex. In May 2024, Trump posted, "I have never and will never advocate imposing restrictions on birth control." Since then, his administration has cut federal funding for reproductive health services, promoted natural over hormonal methods, and allowed employers to refuse birth control coverage on insurance plans for moral or religious reasons. These policies have been pushed through, despite findings that declines in teen and unwanted pregnancies are linked to access to contraceptives. Experts say that lack of education around sex, coming from misrepresentations and the ever-changing policies behind it, is a time-old issue.
It's just perpetuating this vicious cycle and keeping us in a deep, dark cavern of misinformation and confusion and shame and fear and anger and all of the stuff that keeps us disconnected and really lonely and fearful.
At the same time, the Institute for Family Studies says that we're in the middle of a sex recession, particularly among young people. Why? Socialization dipped as digital use soared. Whether your newsfeed is full of updates from the Middle East or clips from Congress, there's an overload of information that experts say causes people to shut down.
The ability to even feel desire for something that makes you fully connected and fully experience your body, like sexual pleasure, it ends up being really inaccessible.
So next time you're picking up condoms from somewhere like CVS, maybe bring a bit more cash. Live from the Upper West Side, I'm Mabel Pickering for CJS News.
Thank you, Mabel. Now to a story about grocery store staple that's fueling a national policy debate. CJS News reporter Grace Blendonahy is in Morningside Heights with more.
That staple is rotisserie chicken. Right now, food stamps do not cover hot food items, but this new bill could carve out an exception for chicken.
Democratic Senator John Fetterman introduced the Hot Rotisserie Chicken Act, calling Costco's $4.99 chicken America's best and delicious affordability play. The House voted 384 to 35 to pass the legislation. 3 New York Democrats, including House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, voted against it, arguing the bill does not go far enough, saying SNAP should cover all hot foods. Some advocates and policy experts say lawmakers shouldn't stop at chickens.
Taking one ingredient and saying, oh, we should put a whole bill around a rotisserie chicken as opposed to hot foods is It's ludicrous.
Broader SNAP cuts are expected in the coming years, and so are a series of SNAP changes, including expanded work requirements and eligibility changes.
It's still pretty insane, but it's going to push more than 70,000 New York City residents into poverty as a result of the effects of the cuts to SNAP. So that's just focusing on the cuts to SNAP that were passed under the reconciliation bill.
For many New Yorkers on SNAP, the question is no longer what food is covered, but whether they'll be able to keep the benefits at all.
There's no excitement by customers right now because of some small bill that will never make up for the massive SNAP cuts that keep coming since the pandemic.
The bill now heads to the Senate as part of a broader farm bill debate, but no final vote has been scheduled. In Morningside Heights, I'm Grace Blendonahy, CJS News.
Major changes may be just down the road for one of New York's most iconic streets. The city has a new plan to restore Park Avenue's green space. CJS News reporter Kalohe Donbura joins us live from Park Ave with the details. Kalohe?
Thanks, Marina. The city is considering expanding the malls on Park Avenue to include space for pedestrians to walk, bike, or sit and stretch their legs. Green malls separate the north and southbound traffic along the major boulevard Park Avenue. These green spaces, however, are narrow and have almost no space for pedestrians. Two potential redesigns are being considered. One is solely for pedestrians. The other incorporates a bike path. Both take away 2 lanes of traffic for 11 blocks of Park Avenue, from 57th Street down to the MetLife building. And that space then goes to the malls in the middle of the street.
And by doubling the size, by putting in new landscaping, new areas where people can sit, stroll, where artwork can be displayed, we're going to be able to make use of this property really for the first time in decades.
In a statement, Mamdani said that with this new redesign, we are putting the park back in Park Avenue and upgrading Midtown Manhattan by providing residents and visitors alike with a more usable public space.
We've seen time and again that street redesign projects that center giving more space to pedestrians and making spaces more pleasant and accessible and available to walk, that those do have huge impacts in promoting more foot traffic, and that in turn increased foot traffic really is a huge driver of economic activity.
But critics worry that cutting 2 lanes of traffic in Midtown will make congestion worse. This plan is not a new idea. Decades ago, the medians were larger, 50 feet wide, back before cars reshaped the streets. Today, the medians are about 20 feet wide. Comptroller Mark Levine posted on X, Park Avenue got its name because a century ago, it had a literal park in the median. The plans are far from finalized. The city continues to monitor input from the community through online feedback forms. It could still be a few years until you can take a walk in the park on Park Avenue. Reporting live from Midtown Manhattan, Kalohe Donbura, CJS News.
Thanks, Kalohe. Coming up, stories from The Scroll. Our social media reporters take you along on Mayor Mamdani's bike tour.
And we'll hear about possible Long Island Railroad strikes. Stay with us. CJS News will be right back.
Did you know that 9 out of 10 Americans are sick of the divisions in our country? But there's one small step we can take to remember that we're still connected. All over America, strangers with different political views are coming together to talk about their lives, not politics, and discovering they actually have a lot in common. Because even if we don't see eye to eye, we can still talk, heart to heart. So let's talk, for a change. Learn more at takeonesmallstep.org.
Welcome back to CJS News. I'm Madiha Anis.
And I'm Jules Vargas. Thank you for staying with us.
The LIR Workers Union and the MTA are back at the bargaining table today, trying to avert a massive strike. At issue, wages. Workers want a 5% raise. The MTA is offering 3%. Commuters are watching as the possibility of a Long Island Railroad strike continues to grow. Union workers and transit officials are discussing wages and working conditions, with both sides trying to come to an agreement to avoid a shutdown. A possible strike could begin on May 16th, and it would be the first in 3 decades. It would be a major disruption for hundreds of thousands of daily riders. It could also mean heavier traffic, crowded buses, and subway lines. The LIRR is the busiest commuter railroad in the country with over 300,000 daily riders. For now, the commuter line continues to operate normally. If the two sides fail to reach an agreement, riders are advised to monitor service updates and prepare for possible delays.
New developments involving abortion access. The right to send abortion pills through the mail has been restored for at least another week. On Monday, the Supreme Court temporarily suspended a ruling that limited access to the abortion medication mifepristone. Patients can continue getting the medication at pharmacies or through telehealth and the mail. The majority of abortions happen this way, using pills instead of surgical procedures. Louisiana officials want the ban restored. They're arguing in court that expanded access to mifepristone conflicts with the state's ban on abortion. The Supreme Court's order is temporary, giving justices time to review the case.
Spirit Airlines has officially stopped flying after 34 years. The airline built its business on cheap fares, but that model became harder to sustain as travel costs climbed and budget travelers pulled back on spending. At the same time, competition intensified while labor and aircraft maintenance costs continued to rise. A merger with JetBlue was blocked, and then Spirit filed for bankruptcy twice. This year, the war in Iran raised jet fuel prices and the airline ran out of options. Over the weekend, Spirit grounded its fleet and canceled all future flights.
And now to sports news. Since 2021, college athletes have been allowed to profit off their name, image, and likeness, also known as NIL. Now, NIL is expanding to high school sports. On Monday, Indiana became the latest state to allow it. I sat down with sports journalist Tyler Carmona to talk about NIL deals for high school athletes. So Tyler, what are NIL deals supposed to be?
NIL deals are meant to allow college athletes and now high school athletes to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. Before 2021, July of 2021, these athletes couldn't profit off of a jersey sale, an autograph signing, really anything that represented their brand or them as an athlete. So now it's allowing them to kind of see the full scope of their value, which is kind of what they've worked for throughout their career.
And what are the effects of the expansion of NIL policies into high school sports?
I think it's just opening it up to another demographic of people that will now be able to support themselves and their family financially. Obviously, there's some criticism that comes with high school athletes receiving this opportunity, but it doesn't mean that you're required to pay any high school athlete. It just removes any supposed barrier that would have been there preventing them. So if you're a coach or if you're a endorsement company that wants to throw some money at a high schooler, now you can. But I still don't expect it to be common in any shape or form.
Well, we're just going to have to see how it plays out. Thank you so much, Tyler.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back.
Hurricane Helene. Devastating impacts on the southeast. Now it's time to help the people and communities who need it most. To make a one-time financial gift to the American Red Cross, scan the QR code on the screen. Make sure to select I want to support Hurricane Helene and enter how much you'd like to donate. Or go to redcross.org/donate. Together, we will make a difference for those recovering in hard-hit communities.
Now it's time for our social media segment, The Scroll.
From every neighborhood right to your screen, our reporters are out across the city bringing you stories everyone is talking about.
Up first, Mayor Mamdani made history Sunday by riding a bike?
Here's CJS reporter Destiny Jones with the lowdown on the 5-borough bike tour.
For one day, New York City streets belong to cyclists, not cars. Over 30,000 cyclists gather in Lower Manhattan today to ride the 40-mile TD 5-borough bike tour. The ride kicked off in the Financial District, and the bikes passed through the Bronx, Queens, and Brooklyn before ending on Staten Island. But the event began the day before with a special tradition, the Blessing of the Bicycles, a ceremony where cyclists gather for a moment of reflection at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in Morningside Heights. For some riders, it was a full circle moment years in the making.
44 years ago, I was a graduate student at SEPA, and I did this race with my friends. So I decided to come back after all these years and do it again.
This year, even Mayor Mamdani was along for the ride.
And I'm so excited today to apparently be making some history as the first sitting mayor to be riding with you for the whole way.
Groups like the Friends of Barnett Newman Triangle fundraise for climate action and advocacy.
I think it's just important that all the wonderful small green spaces that you notice when you're on a bike tour like this or as a pedestrian, that they don't get forgotten, that they're taken care of.
From tradition to activism, this wasn't just a bike ride. It was also a glimpse of what New York City could look like with fewer cars and cleaner air.
From bikes to elevators, Columbia has finally pledged to fund an elevator at the 125th Street subway station.
Accessibility advocates have been fighting for this for a long time. Here's a reporter, Gianna Tutani.
Did you know that the only accessible subway station for Columbia University is here at 96th Street? That's 20 blocks from campus. The stations that are much closer to the school's main gate on 116th and a few blocks away on 110th and 103rd don't have elevators. All you get are stairs, stairs, and some more stairs. For over 5 years, disability advocates and local officials have urged Columbia to work with the MTA to design and fund the 125th Street Station elevator, citing the university's growing footprint in the area. Previously, Columbia University, which boasts a $13 billion endowment, only wanted to fund wider escalators, calling on public investment to fund the elevators. Typically, the MTA pays for new elevators using tax and toll money or other contributions from the city and the state. But Columbia University has finally agreed to pay $33 million to fund wider escalators and one new elevator here at the One Train's 125th Street station. That's according to reporting from the city. While there's no official price tag yet, previous similar projects have cost between $50 and $100 million. The money pays for elevators going to the mezzanine level where you enter and the platform where you take the train. There's also costs associated with the installation and with relocating utilities. But despite all the work and all the money, 125th isn't even Columbia's official subway station. The 116th station is.
125th Street is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blocks north of the Morningside campus. Ara Bakhtiar is getting her master's at Columbia, and she did her undergraduate work here too. She uses a power wheelchair to get around, and many subways are impossible for her to access.
People can choose between taking the subway and the shuttle, but I only can take a shuttle, so it would be wonderful to have the option like everyone else.
Sometimes it takes her 25 minutes to get from the campus at 116th Street to the accessible subway at 96th Street.
Restricts the quality of my life. We would go on required field trips, and so everyone else could take the subway, but I had to take the bus, and that would really mess up the learning experience.
125th Street accessibility upgrade would help Ara while also addressing the MTA's court-ordered mandate to make 95% of the city's 472 subway stations accessible by 2055. But that's nearly 3 decades away. The agency says in the next 3 years, over 60 new stations will be made accessible. But disability advocates say there's another problem. Over 30 elevators go out of service every single day. Construction on the 125th Street station is expected to begin in 2028. In Morningside Heights, I'm Gianna Totani, CJS News.
Over in Queens, the first of 3 casinos has opened after years of lobbying. Yaya Wan dropped by this week.
Resorts World opened the first full-fledged casino in New York City a week ago. The opening sparked some controversy. Let's see how things are going.
Resorts World has been operating in Queens for 15 years as a kind of mini casino. This year, they obtained a full gambling license and expanded the casino floor with table games like blackjack and roulette. Derek Slages said his weekly trips to the casino have become unaffordable since the relaunch.
But the stakes be too high, so I'm not sitting there betting one hand $100, $200 a hand. I ain't got money like that.
Some critics say the casino could lead to increased rates of gambling addiction and debt, but others have commended the opening.
Let's talk about the economic shot in the arm that's going to be given to South Ozone Park that they have not seen is well deserved.
The casino has also promised to support the community by building a sports and education center that will teach the business of sports to athletes and non-athletes. In an article from Gothamist, spokesperson Stefan Friedman said they're bringing jobs to the borough. They hired over 1,000 people for the expansion. Following Resorts World, 2 other casinos are set to open live table games at another location in Queens and also in the Bronx. Combined, the 3 casinos will reportedly pay $1.6 billion in gaming license fees that will go straight to the MTA. I'm Yaya Wan, CJS News.
We'll see if these casinos really do bring the economic benefits they claim.
And back at Columbia, there's a campus celebrity with lofty political ambitions. She says she is, well, we'll let her tell you herself.
Just in a nutshell, who is Sherry Chan?
Sherry Chan is a Secretary of Defense.
I came out as a MAGA supporter after President Trump was re-elected. President Donald J. Trump is one of the person who deeply inspires. I think MAGA head is not just a symbol of Trump, but the vision to make America great. Secretary of Defense will be 4 years of my life. So it's just one of the small journey of my lifelong devotion into defense. I'm open-minded. I have a lot of conservative ideology, but I exchange ideas with both sides. We can agree to disagree, and that's what makes Colombia an intellectually diverse province. My legacy is a statue of me on the sundial in the center of Columbia College, surrounded by Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, alma mater, and all the Western philosophers engraved on the Butler Library, including Zenko.
We'll see if she ends up in high office, on the sundial, or maybe both.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Leland Melvin, and I travel to space twice as a NASA astronaut. Space technologies help protect our precious Earth. Space helps us monitor changes in carbon emissions, track the pace of climate change. It even helps us fight natural disasters. Make sure that you get out to your local science museum or go to spaceforall.us to explore and learn about space and science. Space is for all.
Finally, we leave you with something sweet. There's a new generation of candy shops popping up across the city.
And executive producer Lauren Harris takes us to a few of them.
Candy for the grown-ups. A bunch of new candy stores are selling mostly European delicacies for an adult crowd. The shops use the pick and mix model, where a shopper fills a bag with a range of sweets. Candor, which opened last month in Fort Greene, sells gummy and hard candies primarily from Western Europe, but all of their chocolates are made in New York.
Bon Bon, a Swedish candy company, opened in the village less than a year ago and sells Swedish confections. Bon Bon is expanding rapidly, and so is Little Sweet Treat, which has stores in the city and will have 10 across the country by the end of the year.
A touch of sweetness is what the city, perhaps the world, needs right now. Thank you for joining us. I'm Skylar Winston.
I'm Marina Felix.
I'm Madiha Anis.
And I'm Jules Vargas. We'll see you next week.